Hello.
Hi, Journeyers.
Hey, Journeyers, happy Monday and happy holiday week for those of us in the US getting ready to eat some turkey.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Monday. We are getting ready to eat turkey and celebrate and be with family and hug on people. And it's nice because I don't know, usually when we hug on people, we like them. Hopefully you're hugging on people you like.
Yeah, hopefully you're having a lot of consensual, like enthusiastically consensual hugging happening in your Thanksgiving.
You know what? And I'm going to go as far as to say, Emily, I'm wishing this to all children. If you're a child and you are hugging people and you're being made to hug people, I really hope that you like the people you're hugging. And even more, I hope that you find the voice to say, I don't want to hug that person.
Right. If you are a child who regularly watches our content, then good for you for expanding your mind so young.
I love it. We don't often see these guys. This is Hobbs and this is Dee Dee. Dee Dee has a full name. Dee Dee the bird.
Fowl.
There it is. It's Dee Dee Fowl. That she only got her last name. She's had her full name Dee Dee like since I was 8, but she only got her last name in our group like a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Inspiring. Y'all are inspiring. Listen, everyone, we are on our last day of playfulness. That is the topic for the month. Topic for the year has been community. And today we're talking about playfulness as it comes to us through problem solving. We talked a little bit about this. Oh, this is such an on-spot thing. We did not talk about this before, Emily. I'm wondering if it's at all possible for you to show us the slide of I know, right? It might not be, it might be impossible, but if it's at all possible, you at least talk about it. There was a slide that you pulled up for our show about like the hierarchy of play. And Emily was talking about how playfulness is a skill. And I wanted to talk to you all, talk to everyone about that. And if it's a skill, how does it help us problem solve?
Yep, I got you.
Arnold is the best. Let me see if I can make it so it's so cool. Look at this. Emily!
Yeah, well, so these are play skills as developed for like when you're a small human, when you're a kid and you're learning how to play. These are some of the component skills or kinds of play that you would engage in. I didn't really dig into a lot of this during our show this month, but I made this for the preschool where I'm consulting because we're working on not necessarily teaching play, but having the staff meet the kids where they are. And a lot of these concepts, I'm going to try to knock it on a soapbox right now. Shannon, stop. Don't let me.
It's okay. You just get on it. We've only been here for 4 minutes. We've got so much time.
We got plenty of time. So a lot of the concepts came from a curriculum called the Pretend Play and Language Assessment and Curriculum, which has a lot of, I love the assessment component of it and the breakdown of the skills. Not a fan of the curriculum part of it. Just disagree philosophically and ethically with it. Because in general, I'm going to try to say this concisely. In the special education world, there's a lot of making kids play a certain way to look like their peers. And that's what that curriculum is kind of focused on. I use this more of a hey, if this kid is only interested or able to do like cause and effect or sensory play, then let's not expect him to pretend to create a cookie in the play oven, you know?
Got
Um,
it.
uh, so anyway, so these are some of the component skills that go into play when you are learning how to do it, all the way from like the base things that you love to do as a baby or as a young learner who's like super into cause and effect or sensory um, activities, all the way up to doing like this abstract imagining items, imagining characters, assigning others as characters. um, Active figure essentially means like acting out as another character, like taking a doll and being like, "Hello, I'm the doll," or presenting as a character. So we're not born with these things. These are things that we learn and grow into as we age.
So there's
Here.
some big things. One, thank you, Charlotte, noticing our background, loving, we're leaning into who we are and what we're doing. And hi. There are some big things here that stand out to me, Emily, because you said these are skills that we learn. We're not born with them. And when I think about, oh, yes, when I think about the way that people imagine, sometimes I was just having this conversation with someone who asked me if I think in words. And I was like, yes, I think in words and images and all that. Like, this is how I think. And he was telling me that is not how he thinks at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about improv, obviously, because when I get onto stage, the way I have learned to play and the way my brain works, when I build a scene, I can see the whole scene, right? I know where the stove is, and I know where the cabinets are, and where all the things are in this pretend place. But now what you're telling me is that not everyone does that.
No. No, and that's something that's, been developed over time, right? And for some of us as humans with complex verbal behavior and complex cognitive skills, a lot of these a lot of these come naturally to us as we age, but the strength of some of those skills will vary from person to person, right? The way that you can imagine and the way that Charlotte, they can imagine in images and look around and see things. I don't see things as clearly. That's not a skill that I have. I haven't fleshed that one out as much. And certainly if you're looking at like a young child, they don't have that sort of thing. They're focused on like, here's this thing in front of me and it's pretty literal and I can't do perspective taking yet and I can't really imagine yet. I can just kind of like repeat the things that I've heard. And so it's just like many, many, many things in life, something that we grow into and have strengthened, and individuals have different levels of ability with it.
Yeah, we're just like weaving these things together, right? Because if today's topic sort of is revolving around problem solving, I'm just thinking about all the ways that we look at people and judge them like, well, this is how you solve that problem. But if if I am the type of person that can imagine an entire world and, okay, this is how I see that problem moving through, or how I imagine we fix that problem. But somebody else is like, okay, I don't see an entire world, but I do see this part of the world, and I know how we can fix this part of the issue. I think what I'm getting at is understanding that everyone comes at problems and what they see differently is really important to understanding that there are many different ways to solve a problem.
Yes, Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this so that we can focus on
Cool.
grown-up
I,
problem
I,
solving.
I like it. We might come back.
um, yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with our, I think there's two things at work. One of them is a little bit of perspective taking in terms of like having, seeing different angles of a thing or different sides of a problem. And then I think the other one is, and probably a little bit linked together, is the flexibility of the rules that you kind of place on yourself within a problem, right? And that also takes some practice, right? So like someone who is like, these are the instructions and I have to do it this way, might not have had a whole lot of practice about like, well, what can I kind of like wiggle about these instructions and how can I make that a little bit more flexible, versus someone who can kind of like see beyond those rules.
There's I'm thinking about Gus. Okay. So Gus has an insane ability to pack a car. Like, whoa, I can't figure out how he can see a multitude of items of varying sizes and weights and shapes. And then like just look around and be like, got it. And then almost without like undoing, just put things in the back of a car such that it's like and packed.
That's
Like
impressive.
It's impressive. He's always talking about how he loves puzzles, and my brain, as like wonderful and imaginative as it is, like, yes, I can imagine that we would get all the things in this room inside of the car, but I can't tell you how it's gonna fit. So when we were looking at that chart, it was just reminding me of, oh, there are different ways, like the ability to place yourself in a thing, right? Like the ability to be like, I'm Shannon, but this is another thing. It's a tiger. That mode of play might escape some people. But what you're saying is it's a skill and it can be learned.
Yeah. Learned and strengthened, right? Just like we work our muscles, you can work your skills. And you can, like, for example, Gus might have, and he might have like started with a higher, because also, obviously genetics play plenty of roles when we're talking about learning. But he might have started with like a little bit of an advantage, but he also, it's not his first car that he's packed, right? He's done that a million times, and now he can kind of look at a thing and be able to be like, boop, 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 that's what goes in there. Yeah. Whereas if you're not the one who packs it all the time, you might be like, I don't know, we just throw it in.
Yeah. And we drive away.
Yep. And that's how we do it.
That's how we do it. I'm thinking about scenes. I'm thinking about scenes and how we build scenes and how different people see different things in a scene as far as problem solving and what the problem is that we are initiating, right? Or seeking to solve. And when I think of scenes, I think of a whole bunch of different things. One is the story, right? Like, what is the story? How do we get from Little Mushroom leaves his house and is scared to Little Mushroom returns to his house and is brave? How do we make that story happen? And someone can see the whole thing, and other people are like, well, what are the jokes about mushrooms? Like, how do we make the audience laugh, right? Like during this mushroom tale. And other people are, well, how do we build the environment, right? How do we set the stage so people know where we are? Where are the characters coming from? And even if you're not on stage, and I bet Charlotte has something to say about this too, and Braden would have something to say if he was here. But even if you're like in the booth, right? How do I light this story so that it is a full story? What are the sounds that I'm going to use? Which songs and music am I going to play so that it rounds out the story? And all of these are parts of play, and we're all trying to solve this problem, the problem being, how do we tell the story?
Yeah. And it's different ways of tackling it. And what I like when we think about that is, and Charlotte also said in the chat, how different people could see patterns in game of the scene. I think part of that, in terms of like where people's focus is during the storytelling, is also related to like what brings that person joy, right? So like, if finding a specific pattern, or like finding mushroom jokes is what brings you joy, that's your strength, that's what you love to do, then that's obviously what you're going to like, the skill you're going to strengthen and hone in on. If finding very specific kinds of like wordplay patterns is your jam, that's what you're going to hone in on. And I think that's important to recognize too, that not only do people have different strengths, but also different things that they enjoy. And because you enjoy a thing, you strengthen it, And that's kind of, and the more, I don't know if you're like me, like if I'm bad at a thing, I don't like it. So the stronger you are at a thing, the more you like it. And so it's kind of like this little circle in terms of problem solving. I think the challenge is when we get asked to problem solve in a different way than what sparks us joy or what we're used to. Like I said, there are things that I'm not good at. If we were telling the story of a mushroom and you were like, all right, Emily, I challenge you to like do a bunch of different accents for that mushroom. I'd be like, what? No, why?
No, thank you. No. Yeah. It's the idea of problem solving. So here's the other part that I'm thinking about when you're talking about like strengthening parts of things that you don't like. With the idea of problem solving, I think that we get so caught up in, I have to get this problem solved. Any problem, I have to get this problem solved. And I solved it this way 1,000 times, so I'm going to just keep solving it this way. We don't strengthen, that's where I'm trying to go. We don't strengthen that part of ourselves that we could be strengthening, right? And I feel like in improv, we get to challenge ourselves to use different muscles to strengthen those parts because the stakes are so low.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get fired from your job if you do a bad accent.
Right. Or you might.
In this, listen, okay. No, wait.
Whoa. Or
if you do an accent poorly, but not in poor taste.
Got you. You're in it. You did it. You saved it.
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to practice those things in a way that and push the boundaries of what you think it should be too. Because I think that's part of it when we're talking about strengthening the skills we're not good at, and also playfulness. I think when we're not great at something, or when we are just learning something, we try to follow very rigid rules about it. You know what I mean? Think about like the first improv class that you took, where people were like, you say yes and that is, and you give a who and a what and a where, and you name that person. And when you're learning and getting new at it, you're like, these are my rules. And so similarly, when you have a skill that you're less inclined at, you're like, these are my rules. And here's where play comes in, is that the more you engage with the thing, and more you attempt to solve that problem, the more cars Gus packs, the more he knows that like this luggage could go here. Or I wonder what would happen if I try it over here this time. It would probably work based on past experiences. And that's where the little bit of play comes in, is when we're able to be like, or
I wonder.
we can try pushing it
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah. And I wonder if there is some sort of definition or that defines having people around, like as in one, the stakes are low on an improv stage, and two, when you do the thing, when you're like, I wonder if this will work, you have a lot of other people with you who are also trained to support your wonder, right? And so not only are the stakes low, but the support is high.
You have a dense level of social reinforcement.
See, I knew there was a definition for what I was talking about. I knew it.
Yeah, it's the other reason that I love improv for teaching skills is because you're the schedule of reinforcement for your skill is so dense, which means the schedule is how often you get reinforced for a task, and the denser it is, the more often you do it, right? So like in the office, if you're like working by yourself, or like if you have coworkers who aren't enthusiastic or don't care, and you try something new, you might not get reinforcement for that. You might get punishment for that, or you might just get nothing.
Right.
But in an improv setting where we're like super stoked to like cheer for each other for try something different and be flexible with the rules, you get a much stronger, you get a much denser level of reinforcement, which we know behaviorally strengthens skills quicker and allows you to maintain them across time.
Yeah, we don't often take the time. We say it sort of in passing at the end of our shows. We're like, you should take an improv class. If you haven't taken one, you should take one, burp. But we like sort of hurry over it. But in this moment, I would like to just plant our flag firmly and strongly and say, you should take an improv class, because this, I feel like it's very important. What you're saying is important. The practice of improv, this, say it again, the density, higher level of social reinforcement.
It's a dense schedule of social reinforcement that you're getting in an improv class.
Schedule of social reinforcement, y'all. A dense schedule of social reinforcement. And what's important about that is when you have this dense schedule of social reinforcement, when you are practicing in a space that is reinforcing you a lot, you can take that feeling and practice it outside where the level of social reinforcement may not be so dense. But because it's not so dense, like at your work, there's so much fear in trying something new. But if you practice in this other space on an improv stage, okay, I'm going to practice this new thing. Then when you take it out into whatever field you're usually working on, you will feel more confident in taking small risks. We're just asking for, just try something new, play. And that's the playfulness.
Yeah, you generalize it. We would call that generalizing it across contexts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take it out somewhere else. And you might get a little bit of reinforcement there too, right? Like when I started bringing improv into my job, people were like, what? Or being like very, my conversations with clients got a lot easier. There are some conversations I've had with clients that have been like, I've never had a conversation with a consultant like this before. I had someone one time was like, usually people just come in and tell me what to do instead of like being collaborative about it. And and that was fairly reinforcing for me. And that helps me to maintain it in a different setting where the building and strengthening when you're building and strengthening, when you want a whole lot of reinforcement, when you're maintaining, you can kind of wean it back a little bit and take it out into life and find your reinforcement in life.
Find it. Yeah. This is going to be our last topic of the month, just right? We don't have another one.
Well, there is the 28th, so we could
do good. We'll have another one. Good. Then we can talk about this more. But I was thinking about, as you're watching our shows and as you're listening to us, especially as you're watching our shows and soaking in our content, you're going to start seeing more and more planets, okay? Planets and stars and whatnot. And I want to talk about why, because I think it's sort of important. We might as well lean into it. So when I imagine improv on and off this stage, I imagine it as a space station. Because I imagine it as a space station, because the things that I find interesting and the things that we're teaching and talking about seem to be alien. It makes me feel like an alien sometimes when you tell me a story, like Emily, when you're like, people, what? We're collaborating on something that no one's ever collaborated. Well, because I've gotten that comment too. You go in somewhere and like, you could just work together on this project. You're like, what? Huh? And it makes me feel like an alien. So I'm saying this out loud because when you right now are talking about, okay, we're taking these things, we're practicing these things, what feels weird, like making mistakes. We have this, it's up there. Did we say it? Dense schedule of social reinforcement.
Within our spaceship, there's a lot of reinforcement for like trying new things, being flexible with our rules, being in the moment, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can go back to your home planet where they all think you're super weird because you're on this spaceship, but you're not weird. You're doing something that's out of the box, or at least not out of the box. What would you say, Emily? Like, that's different because it is, now we're starting to talk about connection. We're starting to talk about playfulness. We're starting to talk about things that are going to move us toward taking small risks so that we can discover how to do things better, right? Mm-hmm. How to make our planet, our world, our solar system just a better place to be. And sometimes that can feel sort of alienating, trying something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I have definitely been there where it feels weird to try something different. But that's what we're here for, is to encourage a different way of thinking, a flexible way of thinking.
I love that.
A self-aware way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing it to whatever your planet is. And like, if your planet is IT somewhere, or if your planet is your family, or if your planet is another improv troupe, we want you to bring your skills that you're practicing with us to your home planet.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, we've got just a few more minutes. Anything else we want to say on this, like problem solving, playfulness in problem solving? Try it.
I just think that there's a lot of, one thing we didn't really talk about is the connotation of, play being fun and exciting, so that problem solving can also be fun and exciting. It doesn't have to be a problem. It can be a problem. Like a challenge to tackle. I love problem solving. I love it. I love when I have something in front of me that I think the solving part of problem solving is very important, because there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like this is an impassable thing. And so I think it's important for us to enjoy the ride.
Yeah. I love that. We do whether you are solving something on your planet that is in IT or family or whatnot, or you're solving something that is on stage in a scene, what you just said, it's important to enjoy the ride, is is the same.
Yeah.
So yes. I'm just going to put this up here because Charlotte is saying things going back to what you said about tech. There's a lot of playful problem solving in tech, which is why I love it so much, because it's different every time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there. Well, a couple more things to plug before we hit the end of our show today. So we have two things coming up before the end of the month. We have our virtual, where are you? This way. Our virtual attunement focused improv class is coming up on a date that is going to be in front of me in a moment. It's on November 27th. And you can sign up at our website to come and hang out with us and play together virtually. And then the next night, Shannon, is when we're doing our Journeyer chat. Our Journeyer chat is in our Discord. This month and next month, it's going to be open to everyone who wants to hang out with us. Starting in 23, it's going to be a Patreon only special. So join Patreon if you want to continue to chat with us. It's going to be an open chat for us to see your faces, you to tell us how you're living the theme. We can provide you a dense level of reinforcement.
A dense level of reinforcement. It's like this is good. This is what it is. It's a dense level. If you are craving a dense schedule of social reinforcement, then you need to come to everything that we do. And also, we get this question a lot, which is, are our classes, our workshops good for beginners? If you've never had a improv class in your life, absolutely. This is the best class you can take if you've never taken improv. It's also the best class you can take if you have taken improv before.
Yeah. If you know what you're doing, that's awesome. If you don't know what you're doing, that's better. I think it's my favorite thing is getting non-improvisers in.
Absolutely.
And then to answer your question in the chat, Charlotte, yes, on the 28th, we're going to do a hangout on our Discord on one of our open channels that is available to everyone.
It's gonna be great, friends and family. Come and see us. Check out our, please come to the website. Things are on the website. And if we don't see you, one, hug people for us, or don't. If you're a kid, say no. You don't want to hug people.
To that stinky uncle of yours, you don't have to hug him.
You don't have to hug him. You know, you can tell him, Uncle, I don't want to see you on or
off the stage.
Bye.